Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be reviewing Monolith. It's a film about podcasters. No, a podcaster, let's say. It's also kind of about like creepypastas and weird little stories, and yeah, that's what we're talking about tonight. It says 2022, John. Is this a wide in 23 or what's the deal with this one?
No, I think it got a release in 24. So this came up because Rachel, I had asked Rachel, I'm like, Rachel, what are the new movies? There's like so few things, and you had flagged this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen it, but I had seen the buzz was good for it. So
Well, we'll get to the buzz.
Well, joining me tonight from the Bay Area of San Francisco, please welcome Rachel to the show.
Hello, I'm so happy to be back again.
Next up from the corn area of Indiana, please welcome Casey to the show.
Hello.
And last up tonight, from the area that brings nothing of value to the world except greed.
Yep.
From Manhattan, New York City, the Devil's Den, so to speak. Please welcome John Schnarch to the show.
We're just making up nicknames now. Yeah, man. Hey,
Sometimes it just comes to me,
happening?
John. It's part of my process.
It flows through you. I know.
That's right.
Maybe it's a Mandela effect. I seem to recall that was the slogan of Manhattan. No, is that not right?
The Devil's Den.
Yeah. It's a Berenstein Bears thing, all right?
You know that I was watching this movie going, there's no way this journalist lives in this, like a journalist that does journalism as their job.
Well, it's her parents' house.
No, I understand. But then later on in the movie, and in my head, I was like, well, unless she's like a Nepo baby or something. And then later on in the movie, you're like, oh, there it is. Parents got fuck off. All right, let's do it. Let's take a quick break and review Monolith.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time. Main feature.
The sad state of journalism really is that, John, that you're not really going to survive unless you are comfortable living on literally nothing or you have rich parents.
Or a rich significant other is also one of the avenues.
Yeah.
So.
And I would say, yeah.
You can win the lottery. Have you considered that? The lottery angle?
I worked in local TV for years, as you know, John.
Yeah, Eric, that was a joke. We don't need to get.
Sometimes I would see two news producers who were like married to each other or in a relationship, and I would just be like, "How do you guys think this is going to work? Like, who's paying for lunch? Seriously." But anyway, I digress. John,
yes,
please bring us the word of the day.
Eric, I'm very excited because for the second week in a row, the word of the day is also the title of the movie. The word is Monolith. Look, I texted Eric right before I joined the call to see if there was any fancy audio engineering words that he wanted me to consider, and there was no response. So
left on red.
The word is Monolith. A large, single, upright block of stone, especially one shaped into or serving as a pillar or monument. But it has a second meaning, I think more important for this film. A large and impersonal political, corporate, or social structure regarded as intractably indivisible and uniform. I guess that actually could be either of these for the purposes of the movie, but those are the two. Monolith. Comes to us from the Greek, mono, meaning single, and lithos, meaning stone. Sorry, I can't see because the light in my face.
Yeah, I see your text now. There is lots. There's nothing from this film that stood out to me. It's extremely basic editing she's doing. It's like I feel like they pulled someone's how-to YouTube video and just like.
I mean, we can get it. It's not inaccurate. It's just not the point of the movie.
The editing. No. The editing part is probably the most accurate part. There's some extremely inaccurate parts about how podcasts might get produced, but it's pretty. I'm gonna try.
She just she shoots it over to the guy and is like, "Okay, you can post it now." And like,
I'm gonna try to not be pedantic about it because it's not the point of the film. But
So what you're
All right.
saying is this documentary failed.
Yeah, we can talk about it. John, tell me about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton to share necessarily. Comes to us from director Matt Vesely. It does look like it is his first feature film. He's had a bunch of other credits, writing, some producing, and sort of other departments. He has a bunch of shorts, but this is the first feature. It is Australian. It is sort of shot, stars an Australian actress. It's all whatever set there. Not that it, matters necessarily one way or the other, but they have accents, so there's that. But yeah,
Love a good
look,
accent.
this is an interesting one. I didn't know anything about this. As I was saying at the top, Rachel and I had kind of been texting about a couple of things that came out or were released this year. This is one of the ones that we were looking at. It is about a podcaster. Her name is in fact,
Interviewer.
the interviewer. Yeah, I'm looking at the IMDb page and I'm like, well, she doesn't maybe have a name. She is a journalist. As we've discussed, she's living at her parents' house. She had basically been like fired from a previous job or like sort of let go because of a sort of like minor journalism scandal, which is like not whatever. It's not explained 100%, or maybe I can't even remember. Do they explain exactly what happened at some point?
She didn't do her due diligence on her fact checking, and
Yeah.
somebody got falsely accused of a crime and maybe committed suicide.
Oh, okay. All right. That's more extreme than I remembered it being.
That seems bad.
It's
But
not great.
It happens.
They don't care about that in the Devil's Den.
well,
That's just every day.
Hold on. It's also
Not in the Devil's Den now.
like
They
a
don't care
journal.
about there.
Like typically, a journalist, there is a separate person who is the fact checker. So, like, if a story is not fact checked, that's like yes.
It depends on what. It depends on what
there's-
level we're talking about here.
There's layers of editorial control.
It just seemed like
so-
it seemed like she was writing A and B at a legitimate newspaper. In which case, that's like maybe the only scenario I could see a legit fact checker existing is like an old school newspaper.
Eric, some of the podcasts that I worked on or was involved with,
Podcast.
we had
sure.
fact
No,
checkers
I understand.
that worked on the podcast. Like, it's not so crazy, but in any event,
It doesn't happen in television. I can tell you that.
she's let go.
Not to pull the curtain back here,
She
John.
is now working, sort of, or developing a podcast freelance. I'm going to forget the name of the show. It's sort of like
Beyond belief.
Beyond Belief. Yeah, that's it. It's like one of these like what if / like what's the Leonard Nimoy show? We've
In search of.
In search
yeah.
of. It's like that type of setup where she's covering the mysterious, the unexplained, yada yada. There's like a hint of true criminess to it. She gets a tip in her email that points her to a person, and it like the very vaguest illusion of a story, and she then reaches out to that person, and what we see for the rest of the film is her like following this thread and sort of where that spiders out. The very rough outline is that there are a lot of people around the world who have received these black bricks. Typically it's like tied to something bad that has happened in their life, or like it comes into their life at a time when there's like heightened emotional something or other going on. Maybe there's like extraterrestrial things involved. They all have dreams or sort of visions that are tied into the brick or the arrival of the brick. But that's it. And so she starts running this down. The film is really just about this one character in a house pursuing this story as a podcaster. Although they do some really interesting stuff cinematography wise that maybe we get into. I don't know. That's it. Let's just go from there.
Casey.
All right, I'm gonna get geeky here and throw out some information, but I kind of love this movie. I had no idea what we're getting into. Stars texted us and he said, Rachel said that, throughout this Monolith. And I'm like, I looked at the plot and I'm like,
Fully
Rachel
blaming
recommends-
Rachel if anyone didn't like it. That was like my plan from the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scapegoated again.
Yeah.
Hey, you'll feel better though, because I figured if Rachel recommended it, the plot looks okay. I'm down. I'll watch it. Got hopes. So, leading into this, I happened to read a short story on a whim over the weekend. Had nothing to do with this movie. Whatnot. I just had a whim. It was an old story, and I'll get into the details in a moment. Started watching this movie, and about 20 minutes in, I started to see parallels happening. And I was texting Schnars about it a bit last night, but after watching this movie is straight up a retelling of the Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. And it's more than just based on structure or anything like that. This is the story of Call of Cthulhu. You replace Cthulhu with the kind of dark entity that's described in a lot of her interviews. And you take out the cult aspect of Call of Cthulhu. And everything else is pretty much there. Call of Cthulhu starts out with a gentleman who had inherited his uncle who had just passed away mysteriously's belonging. He was a professor. He found this cache of information about these weird stories based around a stone idol, and he started investigating them. And the story is him going through all these various articles and talking to people and gathering tidbits of this crazy story that his uncle was following that eventually led to his demise. So there's that whole aspect. They've replaced it with the podcaster here, and she's doing the exact same thing with chasing down these threads of these stories and talking to different people. The stories and the clues she's finding also parallel. There's people that she's talked to in this movie that talked about having weird dreams and stuff of monumentous stuff and whatnot. That's all part of Call of Cthulhu. And more than anything, the black bricks and the whole scene about the black bricks and figuring out they're talking about the hieroglyphs and the languages and the inscriptions that are on them and all the symbols, straight out of Call of Cthulhu. That is the Cthulhu idol. And they have the same discussions going through that stuff.
Casey, I've literally never heard you this excited before.
And they even, Schnars mentioned they didn't know if it was extraterrestrial origin and whatnot, and they make a mention that's like maybe it's a metal not of this earth. The Cthulhu idol is described as coming from the core of a dark, distant, and dead star.
Holy shit.
It is Call of Cthulhu, straight up. And with that, they've made it their own. They've changed some POVs around. They've added some details, and they concentrated more on the narrator. And with that in mind, I really kind of loved it. I was blown away. I thought this was a great modernization and a great retelling. And, yes, they shuffled some stuff around, and it didn't make it terrible. And I just really dug what they had going here.
Well, I'm
So there you
convinced.
go.
Take a breath, Casey. I'm worried about you over there.
I'm excited.
I love it.
I've been thinking about this since last night.
Rachel, what'd you think?
Damn, it's hard to follow that. I mean,
Sorry.
I did not discover the conspiracy at the heart of this film like Casey did. But and I was like looking at it like through a much, much more modern lens. So it's really interesting to as you're saying, as that unwound, I was like, oh my God, you're right. This totally is kind of a modern retelling of that. I was also very drawn into this movie. I am a sucker for a mystery. I am a sucker for anything cosmic or otherworldly, and this hit all of those marks. I love a good yarn. It will always get my attention. And in those sort of situations, I feel less like I need to have, if the storytelling is strong enough, I don't need a ton of visual impact. Not to say that there aren't some really cool visual moments in this. And then on a more meta level, I liked the conceit of the storytelling, that it's very stripped down, very singularly focused on the audio storytelling. And I was really curious to see if they could pull it off, because I think it's kind of a bold choice to do with a film. And I think that they mostly succeeded in that. I have some kind of quibbles with the end, and I think we'll probably talk about that in spoilers. But I do think that what really worked for me, because I was not catching that this was Call of Cthulhu, was, the meta commentary around journalism, around unreliable narrators, around the way that structure impacts who gets to craft narratives, who we actually should put our trust in. Those ideas did actually resonate for me, and I thought they were really interesting, and it was kind of an interesting way to kind of get at some of those core ideas, especially now that we live in this time of very democratized news and storytelling. So yeah, I also liked this, but we'll talk about the end a little bit, I think, but I did largely like this.
Should I go? Do you want me to go? Usually you direct the attention, but you're on mute, I think.
Ah.
There we go.
God
In any
damn
event.
it. The stupid mic has a button on it that you can accidentally hit. I said John.
Oh, no. Well,
For the record.
I did not. No. And then I saw you moving, and I'm like, huh.
All we got was Dad stare.
Yeah. I would say in the final analysis, I am okay with this movie. It is a very, I thought there were some things that were very effectively done. I thought it looked really good. I think they hang the entire movie on this actress. Her name is Lily Sullivan.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought she did a pretty good job. She apparently was in Evil Dead Rise. I
Yeah.
guess she was like one of the main people in that.
She's the sister that's there. Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Beth.
She's the not
Aunt.
Evil Dead.
Yeah, she's yeah. I thought she was good. And, for a movie that is literally like you spend an hour and a half with her, often in close up on her mouth. I mean, like, so for something that's done on sort of, I would say a very small budget. I mean, I would be shocked if this was not a very small budget. I think it works. The most interesting thing to me, again, as someone who's like worked in podcasting, like has spent a lot of time around podcasting, like there's a version of this movie that is just a podcast. Like you could do just an audio version of this movie. And in fact, there's like large segments of this movie where you could close your eyes and you almost might be having like, I don't want to say a better experience.
I'm not saying that I did this, John, but you could potentially do other things while watching this movie.
You absolutely could. I did like, I mentioned it right. Like there's a couple of scenes where it cuts. And again, this was some of the stuff that it was like done well enough that it didn't, I almost think it could have been like done more effective, like deliberately. I mean, not that it was all deliberate, but like, when she cuts over to some of the audio of like the interviewers and the interviewers are telling their story, and then they like go to these cutscenes that are sort of dream-like. They're describing their dreams, or they're describing something that happened, and it's like slow camera movement. It's meant to give it sort of like an ethereal quality to the visual. I sort of liked it. I mean, it just. I could have like used a little bit more structure around maybe some of that. I don't know. Yeah, I think it also, I like wanted it to go somewhere that was a little bigger and grander ultimately than it did. And I don't know, Rachel, if that's what you're necessarily referencing or something more specific, but it's a small movie and like it works, but like I didn't love it. Let's just say.
Yeah, Rachel might say this is a good sit. Or a good walk around and do chores while you're keeping
good
one eye
listen.
on it. Good listen.
A good pace.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things like going into it, you just have to, and even if you don't know this, I feel like the film sets your expectations pretty quickly of what it is. But yeah, like it's very audio focused, and there's an aspect of it that is a little reminds me of found footage. It isn't found footage, but it's like it's kind of exercising that same part of your brain where you're filling in the details and the imagery sometimes and the scares, where like they're creating setting up a story and creating a mood and an atmosphere, and then you sort of have to bring a little bit to it yourself. With your imagination, because a lot of the film, I would not say it's scary really at any point, but it is creepy. It's like it's creepy in a fun, like moody way, right? And you're listening to the stories, and I thought she's great. Pretty much every actor they had doing the conversations with her, they're essentially voice actors. They're really great. Some stand out more than others, but there's no one like that you're like, oh brother. Like they're all pretty solid, like voice acting performances. Yeah, it is funny. It is real navel gazy about podcasting. Like just little shit. And listen, I I don't just do BGH, like I do this professionally now, as John has also worked in podcasting for a while. Like, you would never like make one episode of a show and then put it out like this. Like, you'd produce a bunch of it so that you could like sell it. Like, but beyond
Yeah.
that, even you would do all the production first and then sit back and be like, what do we have here?
Yeah.
You don't just interview two people, go boop boop boop, episode 1, and then be like, what's next? I don't know. Like,
she was trying. I mean, I don't think the show was meant to be a like 8-part series about the monoliths or the bricks.
Right.
It is meant to be like each week we're just taking your kooky questions and feedback. And so
Yeah,
she's
I
putting
gotcha,
this one
I
out.
gotcha.
And she does say like, please send in your like feedback. And then immediately she's getting like a gazillion people. I was sort of like, how many people are listening to this podcast? But
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, well, that's also like that made me laugh too. And she was like, I just have to make something so good people will listen. And it's like, oh, honey, like it
Yeah.
is so fucking hard to get people to listen to a podcast, even if it's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, so that made me laugh. Whatever. It's just silly, like pedantic shit, honestly. The actual tech stuff, all like pretty accurate from my perspective. It is funny for me watching someone just working in Adobe Audition, because that's just how I spend a lot of my day. And I was just like, I just did this for 8 fucking hours.
I'm gonna make this dramatic audio cut.
Yeah, it is
But was
like
it-
although I
But
do
was
think
it
that's-
real Adobe?
it looked pretty accurate to Audition. Yeah, like
Nice.
I do think part of what they're showing is probably interesting for people who don't do it. Like, you do legitimately chop people's words together in a way that to like a layperson might seem a little hinky, but like you just have to make those decisions in a way that you know to be not changing the content of what they're
Ethical.
saying, like in an ethical way. And like, listen, you listen to shit all the time. Do you trust that person that they're making that decision? You don't know, because the host may not even be editing it. It might be another editor or producer you don't even see. So you're listening to shit all the time that is manipulated in the same exact way that she did this. And that doesn't this is how conspiracy theorists go. Everything's a narrative. Like there's like the Bilderberg group. Like, listen, a lot of times it's just a fucking overworked editor who wants your dumbass sentence because you couldn't speak right, who wants your sentence to make sense. And so we're chopping up and making you sound like an intelligently coherent person. That's what it is most of the time. I'm not saying no one out there has an agenda.
He's not saying
But-
the Bilderberg group isn't involved at some level.
John's like John trying to pretend like he's not a part of the Bilderberg group. But no, that's what always gets on my nerve when they're like people, especially railing against local TV, and I'm like, bro, you have no idea how everyone at a local TV station is barely hanging on to their fucking mental health and sanity. Like, the idea that they give a shit about some large conspiracy theory is hilarious. Like, they're trying to fill their newscast with whatever bullshit comes down the pipe so they can go home and eat pizza or something. You know what I mean? So anyway, so all that is to say, while there are some like things that they clearly fudge, like it is actually fairly accurate. I really have no clue how interesting that is to your average person, but it is like, again, like it's largely an audio drama. So they really did need, you can tell they had to sit at a drawing board and be like, where are places that we can like zhuzh this up a little bit?
Yeah, well,
And
that's the like
make it a little more
dream
compelling.
sequence things where
Well, and then like during some of the monologues with the callers, like we bust into semi dream sequence, semi like fictionalized recreation sort of.
Mhm.
Those moments I wish went harder,
Yeah,
because they're the moments where everything comes together and puts you in that place where like a really sweet jump scare would be awesome. Like when, like, and again, it's probably just really low budget, but there's the one where the guy's talking about seeing a face, a weird person in his bathroom, and this line is so good, and it was like his face looked like wet bread
Mhm.
or moist bread. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, like, now. And you know what it kind of reminded me of in a way? Remember that documentary? I think it was called Nightmare. It was from the Shining
Nightmare, yeah.
documentary people.
Yeah.
And that was just like real life interviews of people talking about their nightmares. And then they went and shot recreations. It's not amazing, but it sort of reminded me of this. And I think they either didn't have the money. And so, right, that kind of limits your palette of what you can do. Or they really made the decision of like, we want to keep this in that imagination realm and really just try to conjure something for people. But unfortunately, I think because of the language of film, when you're creeping down this hallway and you're getting ready to go into this bathroom, like you're waiting for some shit to happen. And it's
Well,
just like they put some food coloring in the water. And
yeah,
you're
the
like,
bathtub was like
Yeah.
black. Like
can we do a little more
it was
here?
sort of
a
like
little
half
more?
and half. Yeah, yeah.
I would have gone for some cheap ass jump scares, honestly, because I think it would have kept you a little more on edge and maybe made the whole thing like just a little more elevated, you know?
Yeah, and to be clear, from my earlier comments comparing to this story, that whole part of this movie, that's all invented by these folks for this movie. So,
The what?
the her hearing the creepy noises in the bathroom and creeping down the hall, the whole double thing and whatnot, that's all invented for this movie.
Yeah, that's like recreations
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
like
yeah.
interviews that she's doing.
So also like I love Casey's Call of Cthulhu thing. I'm not going to pretend to be well read enough to know anything. Like I think I read 10 pages of a Lovecraft story once and was like, nope, not going to read that. But so I love that, but I think it's also clearly inspired by just a lot of podcasts. Like there is the Black Tapes in here. There is Limetown and like this is very well trod territory in the podcast world. And you can just feel how much inspiration they took from
Well,
those kind of things.
I did
Yeah.
not look this up. I don't know if anyone else reads it. Like, was this an actual podcast that they developed into a movie? I mean,
I don't think
because
so.
okay, because that is like every podcast that gets made. They're like, maybe there's a derivative opportunity, and obviously, very few
Yeah.
of them ever come together.
I will give you credit here, Casey. Levi on YouTube says Casey cooking with gas.
I got excited, but I had to get it out before everybody started talking.
But yeah, like so it's interesting because normally, right, it's a narrative podcast first, and then somebody goes, "Oh, we could turn this into like a limited run series or something." So it's kind of interesting to see this thing clearly inspired by that stuff.
Well,
sort
or
of.
I meant like, did this get developed and even potentially released as a fiction podcast? And then they were just
Right.
like, oh, this is like, we can actually just make a movie out of this. It is.
With some small tweaks, with the exception of the ending, you could release this audio only and have it be almost as effective.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
even the ending, like you could do it in audio. Like it's just like it's not
Yeah.
that crazy. If anything, the audio, what your imagination would do with the audio, might even be
Yeah.
more impactful than what's happening. You know?
I think that the problem is that it's not, the movie's not found footage. So some of those, I'm trying to
like-
think, like, does she talk to herself at all?
Well, she's recording a bunch of those scenes.
Yeah,
so
I guess
she
she's
plays
recording a lot of it. So I feel like maybe there's a few places where it would have to be
She could talk to the
recontextualized a
turtle
little
a little
bit.
more.
I love that scene
Right, like
when
the
she
turtle
was.
talking.
Turtle.
I love that scene when her dad called her back and she was talking to him and asking questions about her birthday, and he was going along and whatnot and talking to her until like 5 minutes into the combo, and she mentions the podcast. And he's like, "God damn it, are you recording me?"
So that's a really big moment too, like a big story thing, right? So eventually, because this is the point at which they're like, okay, we're gonna make this like a movie, and so they write into the story that she's investigating. She's actually involved in it. That section I thought was pretty compelling, like her discovering that and learning about it. It's the doppelganger thing at the end that I was like, fucking what?
Well, it gets.
And
Yeah.
literally, I almost got on this call. I forgot, but I was going to get on this call before we were live and be like, can you guys tell me if I was supposed to understand that so I don't sound like a big dummy on the podcast? Because I was like, you saw Annihilation and thought that was cool? Is that what's happening?
That's 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked a little bit about having trauma fatigue on this show. How like this is a well trod. You need to have some. You need to come correct.
I got enough
if
of my
you're
own,
gonna
Rachel.
come-
Yeah.
I don't need everyone
Right?
else to do it.
I'm suffering a little bit of ambiguous ending fatigue. I think
yeah.
it can still work. Like I'm not going to blanket
It's
turn on an
extremely
ambiguous ending.
ambiguous to the point where I think it feels unsatisfying.
Well, especially if the conceit of the film is an unraveling of a mystery. So it is like set you up narratively to give you some sort of reveal. And so you end up with like narrative blue balls at the end when it's just like we've gotten all the way into metaphor town at this point. And I think largely the metaphor holds. I will say that the metaphor holds, like however you want to see the meaning of the brick and whatever it is.
Could
that
you
occurs
explain
at
it
the
to me
end.
like I'm 5?
Well, I mean, I think that there's some version of this, like everybody got the brick around some sort of traumatic experience that they did not actually grow from. And we find out that
Oh,
she gets the
interesting.
brick when she has, after she deletes the message from her father. And there is this legacy of her being an unreliable storyteller.
That's interesting, right? Because
And
it's like a weighty thing.
Yeah.
yes. So, like, on that level, the doppelganger that comes out of it is the version of herself that has not learned from it.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. The metaphor holds, but the
you should be a movie
narratively,
scientist.
my PhD in ambiguous.
Kind of what we're doing right
endings.
now, I guess. Now that I think about it.
So that's funny because as excited as I was with the Cthulhu stuff, I did not pick up on that metaphor.
No,
But
I was watching
also-
the ending like, fucking what? I was like, oh, thank God Rachel's on the show tonight.
Honestly, I was hoping we get the bread-faced man when she turned that corner in the bathroom, but I would have been okay with
Dude,
it.
just one creepy man is all this
Yeah.
movie needed. Creepy man, creepy lady, whatever. Like, just, yeah, it needed a little bit of an antagonist vibe, I feel like. it
Well,
needed.
they're also so I did watch the trailer to this movie when Rachel and I were discussing it, and I was trying to decide like, is this the thing we're going to cover? The trailer does also imply that they're like, it's called Monolith. Like, it's like there is this like overarching thing. This is happening across multiple people. Like, what? Because the end of this movie is about her and her experience, and like it makes the movie smaller when like the story she's been unraveling is a large one. Like,
Yeah.
is the Bilderberg group involved? We don't know, but who cares now because it's just about her and her like unsolved trauma from her child or whatever. Like it's it actually makes the movie less interesting. Like, that to me was the unsatisfying part. Is like I wanted the like cosmic whoa, and
Yeah.
instead you get to like, well, all right.
Yeah, I mean,
guess,
like, it briefly toys with going into a place of social contagion, which I thought was actually an interesting place to go, like kind of like a la Pontypool, but also again the metaphor holds. When the other sort of seasoned, like I guess like old school style reporter tells her we have a responsibility to the public, like it starts to ask really interesting questions about what that actually means, and if we're passing on these like corrupted, misleading ideas, the way that it like perpetuates these, this corruption was really interesting. And so I was a little disappointed when, like you said, instead of going bigger and like talking about, it's set up with all of these ideas of how many people are listening, it decided to go in. I think part of what made it a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, they do hang this whole movie on her, right? And so like they then have to like end with her, I guess, which.
Sure.
But it's a smaller movie. It like makes the experience less. It unwinds or it diffuses a lot of the drama that they've built through that.
Like
point.
even if they did a pullback, like some sort of epilogue where we saw maybe like larger impacts of what she did, or, you know what I mean? I don't know.
How about the 2001 Space Odyssey Monolith just like on her front doorstep, like outside the house, and then you're like, oh,
It was
boy.
interesting when you see it
That
in the
thing?
sky. Did you guys mention that?
No.
You see it in the sky at one point over her house, like a giant brick
I didn't
floating in
catch
the
that.
What was
sky.
that?
It's
I
basically
just thought
like
that
if
was
you
like
were
a-
not. This is interesting, John, as somebody that was kind of doing other shit. If you were not fully paying attention and you're just going by sound cues, you would not know anything was happening. You would think it was a transition scene. I just happened to be looking when it happened, and like, yeah, it's like a giant, like Hellraiser 2 style, floating in the clouds brick, basically.
Okay. All right.
It was mostly for mood, I feel like.
I wanted
I
to
thought
unpack
for,
all of the language stuff inside it. Like that's the stuff that I was like
Oh,
getting
yeah.
really
Yeah,
excited
Yeah, like the
definitely.
thing she carved into the table. Like there's a
Yes, I want to go there.
and again, like it's a small movie. It's a small budget. Like, but they do a lot and they introduce a lot and then they shrink it.
Narrative blue balls.
Yeah.
You said it.
Maybe
sister.
that's my problem. I don't know.
I did think there was a couple. Wouldn't say there's a lot that caught my eye, especially for a movie that's shot in one, location, essentially one room. I thought they did a couple cool things with like scenes and the setting, scenery in the background. There was that There was one scene where she called one of the people that she'd gotten a lead on, or somebody called her back to give her more information, and she'd walked out into her living room. It was in the morning. She had all the shades drawn. To me, there was that scene as this lady started talking to her, and you could tell that she was kind of keying into the conversation, getting into the zone, and she started raising the shades, and you started to see all of her notes get revealed that she'd been taping to the windows and stuff. I just thought that was a really nice representation. There was a couple moments like that where they kind of reflected her emotions or maybe what's going through her in the scenery.
Look, the house that she's in is a sick house, and they
Yes.
actually do a lot. I just think with like the architecture and the like space of this house, I totally agree. I thought that overall, I thought it was shot really well for a movie, that's doing what it's doing here. So,
yeah. And it was a cool touch for a movie that's shot in basically one room with one person on screen the entire time. It's an interesting way to play with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Would you recommend it, Casey?
Absolutely.
Rachel?
It's soft recommend. Yeah.
John?
I'm gonna say no.
Wow. I think I second Rachel's soft recommend, which is a phrase that I like.
If we can do qualified recommends, I'm trying to be disciplined. Like, it's a yes or a no, and I'm gonna be a no here.
Embrace the nuance, John. Embrace the nuance.
John, are we counting this for this year?
Yeah. This will be on the 2024 list.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to put it on my top 10 list. So let's take a quick break and take a look.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
So pretty much at this point of the year, and I expect this to probably be for a lot of this year, it's kind of just like Lisa Frankenstein and then everything else. That said,
You haven't even seen Imaginary yet, Eric. So
I know that came out this week, and I was like just in a state, and I was like, guys, I can't make it to the theater this week. Can we do something else? So right now I've got Lisa Frankenstein at number 1, ISS at number 2. I think that's going to hang around this year too. That was a really memorable film that I enjoyed.
Feminism.
I love feminism, Rachel.
I know. Got top 2.
Number 3, Monolith. Number 4, Night Swim. That's all I got so far.
Okay.
we need to see at least 7 more movies.
Yeah.
We'll get them in. We'll get 7 in.
Oh my lord.
I'm excited for you guys to watch Y2K. That's the one I'm waiting for you guys to see.
Why?
I'm pretty excited for that too.
Is that out? I haven't seen.
I saw it in Austin.
What's the log line on that?
So it's by Kyle Mooney from SNL, and it is the night of Y2K. And at midnight, Y2K happens. It's like teenagers at a party, and Y2K happens.
The night of Y2K, I was at a New Year's Eve party, obviously, and I took a bunch of really bad old acid that didn't do much except I couldn't sleep, which was a real bummer because I wasn't even getting the good part.
So you just got speed.
I just
party.
got the bad part. Yeah. And then we all like were still alive in the morning, and I was like, son of a bitch.
I was on call. Woo!
I was a real nihilistic 18-year-old, John. I was kind of just hoping we could just all get yeeted into the sun or something. Didn't
That's what was
pan
gonna
out for me.
happen. Like the ATM machine, the ATMs were gonna stop working, and we'd all be yeeted into the sun.
It didn't pan out for me, John. Turned out I still had to live life.
Christ.
Not great.
Rachel,
That
does
would-
it have distro? Is it gonna get like theatrical?
A24. It's A24.
Oh, hello. Okay, all right.
It's in the bodies sort of lane.
Yeah.
Rachel, did you see the documentary? You just brought up you were at South by Southwest. Very fancy, by the way. Did you see the documentary about the founders of MoviePass and how they got like That whole
No.
thing blew
Oh,
up.
I need to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't, but I've heard people talking about it. Yeah.
It
No.
got some, but I didn't realize that there were like two like black entrepreneurs that started MoviePass, and then it was like purchased by some people, and then just destroyed. Like that's when it started going all downhill or something. I don't know. That was
Yeah,
the
it
narrative
nuts.
kind of coming out of the documentary, so that looks interesting.
Yeah.
So, do you see anything else
I don't know
horror-y
if that was going to work as an idea from the beginning. Just, but
well,
I'll reserve judgment until I see the documentary.
anything else, Rachel?
I saw the TV Glow, which is the follow-up to by Jane Schoenbrunn, who did We're All Going to World's Fair. It's another I watched like 4 A24 movies this week. I saw that. I
Ooh.
saw
How's the Kristen Stewart one? How's that?
Love Lies Bleeding.
It's
That's in theaters
good.
right now.
Do you
I might go see
think we
that.
could justify doing it for the show?
Oh yeah. There's some body horror in it. I mean, it's definitely adjacent, but there are like it's described as like a lesbian crime thriller body horror, and there is a whisper of body horror
Speaking
in it. So if
John's
you-
language.
Well, I might see it tomorrow actually, but
Let me see.
yeah, I'll definitely watch that for sure.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm
It's
gonna
absolutely-
watch it whether
yeah.
we do it on the show or not. Is what I'm saying.
I think there's stuff to unpack in it. It's
I don't
good.
have it here.
I mean, the trailer's great. The reviews
opens
have
this
been
week. It opens this
medium.
week.
Oh.
I saw a screening last night, so I saw that. I saw Dead Mail, it's like a little indie horror film that is like I don't know if you'll like it, but it would be interesting to talk about. And Hunting Days, which was not for me.
Is it for us though?
I don't know.
We're pretty aligned usually.
I think
feel like.
Y2K will be the most fun. It's the most fun I had in all of the movies that I saw. And I almost texted Eric after it, and then I was like, nope, I don't want to spoil this moment for him. But there's
Yeah, that's
something
probably for the
that
best.
is just for you personally.
I can't wait. I can't wait. In Love
And
Lies
then I'll
Bleeding
send you all the
specifically?
pictures.
No, in the Y2K.
In the Y2K.
Y2K
Then I'll send you all the
gotcha.
pictures afterwards from the
I-
Q&A.
I do appreciate you thinking about me. Speaking of fun, we are by the day this comes out, we will be exactly 1 week from all of us convening in Cincinnati.
We'll see if you like me on the other side of a screen.
I was gonna say
It's
it'll
a
be the
lot
first
of
time.
energy.
Wait, Rachel, have you met any of us in person? Oh my
I
god!
don't
I'll tell
think
you the
Whitney's
question-
coming. She's the only person that I've met face to face.
Who
Wait,
is?
Whitney's coming.
Whitney. I don't know if she's coming, but I'm just saying
okay.
in the BGH
Oh,
world,
I
she's
gotcha.
the only person
Oh
I've met.
no, I don't
face
think
to
she
face.
is.
Bummer.
You know the question I have, Rachel, and if you don't want to say, you can text me. I'm just wondering how tall you are because I have no concept of how tall.
I'm a
you are.
shorty. I'm a short
Okay.
queen.
Sweet.
I'm 5'2".
High five.
Oh,
All
wow.
right, love it.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed. That's wild.
Oh, really? Do I give
For some
tall
reason, I thought
energy?
you could potentially be like 6 feet tall. I don't know why I
Really?
thought that.
No, I'm
I
like
mean,
a
that
little.
would have been.
I'm like a little pocket fatty. You'll see.
Prepare to feel tall for the weekend, Rachel. Colleen's only 5 foot.
Yes, I'm gonna tower over her.
I hope you guys are ready to babysit a gremlin, and that gremlin is me.
I am. As a matter of fact,
My
it's a
one horror
specialty.
memory I always talk about because it's funny. It's both like hilarious and also just brotherly love. Was that one time? It was like on Friday we had a booth at the convention we were setting up for. It was open, and I was so goddamn cranky, and like I was just bitching about something, and Mark just walked up to me and just did one of these and was like shh, like go take a nap. And I was like, if it was anyone else, I would have been offended by it, but I knew he genuinely just knew what I needed, and I was like, okay.
Should we keep snacks on us? Like if you start getting hangry?
No, I'm like, so
a
I'm
bag of
actually, I'm
Cheerios
beginning
or-
to plan this now. I'm borrowing one of my parents' suitcases because I don't have one that's big enough. Because I'm going to LA after this for work.
Mhm.
So I'm gone for like 7 days. Half of my suitcase is going to be like food and sundries to just keep this,
Smart.
keep this going. Keep
There's
on.
like
I
a
thought you were
50%
gonna said you were gonna
chance
hide in the
you make it
suitcase.
Yeah.
What, John?
I said it's a 50% chance you're making it home in one piece. So.
Oof, it's gonna be brutal. And then
No.
the week after that, I'm getting a tattoo. I'm getting a Return of the Living Dead tattoo.
Awesome. What are you getting?
Tarman.
Ooh.
Amazing.
It's gonna be
Amazing.
pretty gnarly.
Rachel, the
I was-
the main rule to remember with Eric at Horror Hound is the moment that you can't find him and you start to wonder where Eric went, he's back in the room
I'm just back in the room. Yeah.
Are you an Irish goodbyer for sure?
Yep. Oh yeah, he's the king.
Rachel, I pride myself in being perhaps the world's greatest Irish goodbye
Oh.
perpetrator.
All right, I'm gonna be counting on you, John, to shut it down with me because I like to close it out.
Casey can hang too. Don't worry, Casey. We'll be.
Okay, good.
So it's interesting because like we haven't been together since pre-pandemic. Like,
Yeah.
So it's crazy to think like I always get reminded that we were together like a few months before in October, right before the pandemic. But it seemed like 100 fucking years. Like,
I know.
because then the world changed and everything was different. But I remember we did, where was that? Chicago, right?
Yeah.
Fall 2019. And we did like trivia and karaoke. And we were at that bar. I legitimately, that's probably the last time I drank for real.
It was
Like,
the
we were there
latest
for, like,
Eric's been up.
remember we were
since
there for like 12
2019.
hours?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
just
I
walked up to
don't. I
John.
actually don't remember the last like 3
I
hours.
walked up to John at one point and just dead seriously was like, "You need to take me home. I am done."
It got dark for me toward the end of the night, but
Oh yes. See,
You know what part of my Irish goodbye thing is, and so I am friends with a lot of drinkers and stuff, and I haven't drank in 3.5 years, longer than that now. Like, saying goodbye to a drunk person, especially if you're sober, is like top 10 worst experiences fucking ever. So like, say your nice things to me when we meet. We can have a conversation. We can say all the pleasantries. But like, I'm not gonna sit there. First of all, I fucking hate people who are like, "Oh, you gotta stay." Like, fuck off. I'm like that. I'm avoiding that first of all, and I'm avoiding drunk people who get overly emotional because like they're not gonna see you again or whatever. I don't need that.
that's a bummer.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too much. So, and then it takes an hour to talk to everybody. Like, I'm just gonna like roadrunner my ass. Like, you're gonna look and there's
Peace.
gonna be a cloud of dust, basically.
Okay.
yeah.
Don't be offended by it.
I won't. Good news is I'm like a happy drinker. I get like if anything you'll have to deal with me being like, I love you so much, Eric.
That's
I don't
cool
know
with
if
me.
I've told you.
I'm
how
actually,
amazing
and I'm
you are.
actually a happy drunk too. I just don't drink anymore. But like, I was a real happy drunk. I never understood angry drunks.
Yeah.
And you'll be in a good crowd too. Our Halloween friends at Horror Hound are always a blast, so you'll be in a good place.
And we should say like, if people are going, like, I know there's some people on Slack, like, hit us up on Slack or email or something. Just let us know if you're going to be there, because like there's going to be, I would imagine, a shit ton of people there. So
Yeah.
if you're coming and would like to meet us, we got to figure out how to coordinate somehow. Like,
Yeah, like
if
what
you're on
are we
Slack,
doing
that's the
Friday?
perfect place,
Are we going
but-
to like a party or like what are we doing?
I was
in
just
your
gonna have
room,
like a
Eric, so you
bottle
can't
of
Irish
liquor
goodbye?
in the room. And then,
Well, historically, Friday nights are a big, fairly big party in the lobby of the hotel, from what I remember, at least in Indy. So, kind of everybody from the convention is down in the bar area, which I'm assuming is similar in Cincinnati. And it's kind of a big mass of people, and it's a good time. So,
Dope.
Rachel, wherever you are, that's where the party
That's
is.
where the party
Okay. See, here's the thing: is then you're gonna find out that I'm actually secretly an introvert, and I'm worried you're gonna be disappointed when I'm like,
We'll make it work. Don't worry.
okay. I mean, alcohol helps.
Yeah.
I'm actually really good with introverts because I sort of was one and I had to like force myself to get out of it. And so when I see people that are introverts, I like go out of my way to like make things easier for them, like involve them in the goings on.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. You can be my emotional support friend.
I'll be your introvert buddy.
Yeah.
plus you'll find out exactly how extroverted I am, so you can just hide behind me.
Sounds good.
All right. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is email address. One email this week from Randy. Saltburn's pivotal bath scene brought me back to the good old days of BGH grooming tips. Those early days could be frightening because a lot of airtime was devoted to the conundrum of serial toilet disposal. I can clearly remember about that. Just unlock a memory for you. Rachel?
Yes.
I never forget. I think about it every day. I can clearly remember about a dozen years ago when Eric would talk about standing in the shower and never worrying about washing his legs because the soap and water just ran down there, right? That position was reversed in the last year or two, which shocked me. Just wondering if the crew had any new revelations about personal style to pass along. So this actually came up a couple weeks ago because I remembered it as Joe saying that, and he confirmed this on Slack. We were talking.
Yeah,
about
I thought it was Joe too.
Now I'm like, I never want to unequivocally say, no, I didn't say that, because I don't know what I said fucking 12 years ago. But I'm like having this memory now, and what I think may have happened is that I was originally on Joe's side, but when I got wind of the scorn he was receiving for this, I became a below the waist washer, specifically for the feet. Like legs are kind of legs, like your knees get that dirty. I don't know, but feet, you got to wash your feet, and I'm definitely like
maybe
if I
yours
was
don't.
not then, I am definitely a convert now.
It's definitely one of those things like when you see a doctor and you're in your like 70s, they check like how often do you clip your toenails, because it's like a sign if you don't clip your toenails that you are like fucking physically deteriorating. Like if you are not washing your feet, that's like
John,
a
that
sign.
whole thing you just said made me want to vomit, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all,
I'm saying that's true.
I'm picturing some rough ass hooves, right?
I mean,
just your average feet on a dude walking around are an atrocity. Like, forget a 70-year-old.
but you gotta wash them. Like,
Yeah,
step
of course
one,
you do,
wash
John.
them. Like, I just
I've been washing my feet for at least 12 years, John, so leave me alone.
ever since you found out it was unacceptable to not wash your feet. Yeah, fair.
That's it for email. Casey, what do we got on threads?
All right, we got a couple threads out here. Let's see here. Our first one, good question from our buddy, the drummer from Foghat. Are there any conspiracy theories you think are plausible or hold water in any way? For me, the moon is 100% made of cheese, and I have proof.
Man. This is such a...
Well, I'm not big on big conspiracies, but I found a thread on Reddit or something the other day where somebody had asked, what is like your favorite like inconsequential conspiracy that doesn't really amount to anything and you kind of believe. And somebody had posted about how, you ever notice going by a Costco parking lot and it's always full of cars, but if you go in, the number of people in the store never match the number of cars in the parking lot. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, they're making it look busier.
That's
Parking cars
insane,
in there.
first of all.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I will
is
say
it like
one
an
of-
eyes wide shut in the basement situation? Like, what is
say I
that?
want-
No, to make it look busier, like it's happening place.
They're just like parking multiple cars out there.
One that I 100% believe after John Oliver did a whole episode on it is the theory that Chuck E. Cheese recycles pizza slices into new pizzas for people.
Yes.
That would
Because they
explain
had
some
photo
things.
evidence and it was extremely convincing.
Wait,
And it was funny.
there-
So then my daughter's birthday party was at Chuck E. Cheese this year, and I was talking with one of the other dads.
even
and we
after that episode,
we started talking about that thing and how it was like this conspiracy theory. And we were all like, oh, we got to fucking check these pizzas out when they get out here. And then right before food was supposed to be served, the power went out and no pizza was served. And I was like, I'm just
Oh,
asking
they knew.
questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
they got you.
Free birthday party though. So that was cool.
That's huge. That's,
Yeah,
And
win-win.
the cold and flu virus was a bonus that you took home with you,
Right.
I'm sure.
that was going to happen either way, though. Wait, speaking of potentially inconsequential conspiracy theories, what do we think the deal is with the Princess of Sussex or whatever the fuck her name is? Kate.
This is
Princess
weird.
of
I just read the
Wales.
thing about her not having her wedding ring on in that photo, and that's what people are freaking out about now. Like, what is going on?
Well, she's gone.
Yeah.
Okay, she's gone
She's
missing,
been missing
for a
since
while.
January. Yeah.
Yes, and she supposedly had some sort of medical procedure, and then they like released a footage of her that was like,
Wait a second.
Loch
She
Ness
has not
monster.
been. Wait,
I've
wait, wait, wait,
followed
wait,
all
wait,
of
wait,
this
wait,
stuff.
wait, wait,
I'm
wait.
just saying, do you
Guys,
think she's
hold on.
alive or dead?
Guys,
I think she's
can we-
alive. I think she got a facelift, and it needs to settle.
I had to check that I wasn't muted because you guys
Yeah.
weren't listening to me. Can we back it up? for a
Sorry,
second, please?
Yes, Eric. She had it. She
I
had
did not understand.
abdominal
But wait,
surgery.
wait. John,
Yes.
I did not understand. I did not understand this part. I knew she had surgery and that they were being coy about it and that there might be like a cancer situation or something, but I did not. And I knew the photo came out, but I didn't understand. She's not been seen in public since then at all.
No. The
Okay, well, then
photo
this is
was
way-
the photo was the like proof of life photo that
This is
Yeah.
real then.
It was like
Yeah.
a grainy Loch Ness monster style.
So how would
and then
the,
today they released a like heavily photoshopped, like they just
That's
dropped her
what
face
I-
into a photo.
That's what I
there's
saw
a new
was-
photo. They did a second one.
There's
Oh,
a
I
And like
didn't see
family-
the new one.
they, yeah,
there's
it's
a
like
family
freaking
photo
Yikes.
with her and the kids, and she was first being called out for like a lot of face tuning happening.
Well,
and then
like the hands,
And
look
the hands
weird
are all
at
off
the-
and stuff.
yeah, the girl's dress was weird, and then somebody noticed she didn't have her wedding ring on. It's just a lot of weirdness.
Huh. I didn't
Um,
realize the conspiracy. I knew about the picture and the AI, suspecting it was AI. I didn't realize how deep it went.
I will say another thing,
Well,
another
the king
secret
also,
from
King has cancer. That's like real.
I will
That's
say
not-
another
knew that.
secret from
That's
the news
why-
industry is that when your favorite news anchors are off air for like 6 weeks, it's usually because they had a facelift
Yeah.
and they just go away until
Yeah.
they can come back again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let the girl's face settle.
So that is like that's a possibility, and that's not
Oh, gosh,
that's not a good conspiracy. But
no comment.
Or she had an actual abdominal procedure and is healing from that.
I mean,
Just as likely.
well, she did have kids. Like, there's definitely very viable procedures she could.
yeah,
be
she
getting
could
to
just be like
repair
really
muscle
sick.
things
Like
or-
that's
yeah.
totally possible. But they're acting weird about it. That's what's
Because they're so
Yeah.
fucking weird. I mean, that's the
Well,
thing. Like this whole. Oh God, you're gonna get me like.
They haven't
we
been
can
The
a
whole
Well,
thing with
that's what-
Harry
yeah.
and Meghan, it's like Harry is clearly out of his mind, but I think they all are, and I think he really is just trying to escape the craziness. But he's also crazy because he had no fucking shot of not being crazy. I think
Yeah.
Meghan Markle's crazy. I think they're all fucking batshit. Okay, but like, it is clearly so insane. Like, those people are so cloistered in that world. I don't think they know how fucking nuts they are. Like, I don't think they have
Yeah.
any clue how disconnected they are from like the reality.
I mean,
Yeah.
without all the debauchery necessarily, but I always kind of suspected they were like the Saltburn family.
I mean, you know.
Without the
So here's what I'll say, okay,
Well,
conspiracy theory wise,
I'm
and I
being
do
polite.
want to. I'd like to recognize that we used to have funsies with conspiracy theories in the show and dabble in them. It got less fun after 2016
Oh, it's
because now you
terrible.
gotta just. Now when people start spouting this shit, you're like, oh, are you like a dangerous person to be around? Legitimately, like. But I've always been fascinated with the moon landing conspiracy, and very specifically because it ties in Stanley Kubrick, like that version of it where where like Space Odyssey is essentially like a practice run at faking the moon landing is the fucking most fascinating thing. And then when you watch the Shining documentary, and in
Yeah,
there
around
they
2007.
expand on the mythos that that the Shining was this big elaborate secret confession of what he did. And then but then there is shit like Danny's wearing an Apollo fucking sweatshirt, and these tapestries have rockets on. Like, I love it. I love it so fucking much. But then if somebody ever came up to me and were like, we didn't land on the moon, I'd be like, you fucking idiot. So like, I don't know, man. Like, I can't.
Well,
I
the
don't
problem
trust
is if they believe that, there's like a lot of other conspiracies that get darker.
Because on
They
its
also
face,
probably
like
believe
on
it.
its face, I think you could convince me that there was something to gain in the middle of the Cold War by the US claiming they had landed on the moon, right? And the fact that no one else has ever gone back, that to me is a definitive thing that will just be like, okay, like someone else did it. It's fine. But I'm sure we landed on the moon, guys. It's fine.
Are you though?
But
Are
I love
you?
it. I love it so much.
All right, next from Well Adjusted Podcast. Is this movie weaker or stronger for only having one character on screen?
Well, it needed at least the bread man, so weaker.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that the only other character we got on screen was the same
That dude's
girl.
feet. We got that
Yeah.
dude's feet.
That's true. All right, last up we have Popcorn Designs. How often is Eric tempted to edit everyone else's audio? Add some extra razzle-dazzle to the show. Maybe some problematic opinions from John. Get some press.
I never cut a thing unless and we didn't. I should have said this out loud in that episode a couple weeks ago that we did with Ariel. What was that movie with the creepy first date?
Cat
person.
person.
Yeah, so there was a windstorm here and it was messing with my internet, so I kept dropping out. That show needed editing because there were sections where everybody was like, "Where's Eric? What's going on?" Like, but day to day, I don't cut shit from the show. So I'll often there's been a lot of people that started their own shows that were fans or whatever, or just ask me and they're like, "Yeah, do you cut out like ahs and ums and stuff?" I'm like, "Fucking no, I don't. I have a life."
You just said you listened to the show, right? I think
Yeah,
you can
no.
hear the
I do take individual mics. I mix them individually to get everybody sounding good and stuff, and then I just cut the show together. But I don't chop anything out. I know he was not seriously asking, but there you go.
Yeah. If you had to cut ums and likes, I would
No,
have
but I
been
will tell you, at
one-time
work-
guest.
At work, like we make documentary style audio projects, and like fully there's like words being chopped together in a very journalistically
High
ethical
integrity
way.
situation.
But here's a secret about regular people with no media training when they do interviews, they're fucking terrible most of the time. And so like the thing you are hearing is someone else going through painstaking work to make them sound listenable.
I don't do it with podcasts, but I do it with, text on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for threads, Eric.
Love it. At least the last time I checked, we just had a few quick ones. Stand by.
Do.
I always have to do a quick check. Are these real questions? Speak of the devil, Joe writes in, the Joe, do you need to see this one before watching Duolith? I don't know.
Just
His mind.
move on.
His mind.
He took time out of his day to write that,
Yeah.
and then I read it. This question I like. Will John vote for Aaron Rodgers for VP?
Oh my
Dude.
God.
I cannot think of anything to add more perfectly to the hellscape that this election is going to be than fucking
No, I agree.
dipshit Kennedy running with fucking Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my God.
How are we going to get through this year? I don't
By the way,
know.
we should say that's not like a story was floated today that he's on the short list for VPs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stupid enough. It makes sense.
Exactly. It is stupid enough. That it makes sense.
I mean,
For
is,
RFK Jr. to be
wait,
clear.
is Jesse Ventura stupider or less stupid?
I mean, he was a governor
He was
at least.
okay. He was not a bad governor.
Also, it's
I
funny.
think he's maybe gone a little off the deep end.
Well,
It's
okay,
funny
that's
because
fair. That's fair.
like people rightly rag on both Biden and Trump for their age, but like, can we talk about the fact that RFK Jr. has done like more steroids than Hulk Hogan? Like that dude's fucking heart is gonna explode at literally any moment.
I was going to say, but he does videos of push-ups, shirtless push-ups, so, it's okay.
He's horrifying looking. Like that's
I know.
he looks like Macho Man right before his heart exploded. Is all I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
You know how Macho Man died, John? He was just driving down the road and his heart just burst and he ran into a tree.
Drink a
I
Celsius.
didn't know that.
He was drinking a Celsius. I'm telling you, Rachel, I would drink those while I was working out, and I was using the
Yeah.
Apple Watch at the time to track my heart rate, and it'd be like, damn, dude. When I stopped
You may be
drinking
having a
them,
cardiac event.
when I stopped drinking them, my watch like a week later was like, your heartbeat is like 10 beats per minute lower than it was last week. What's going on? I'm not filling myself
in
with poison
effect.
every day.
I don't know. The more we talk about it, the more I just want to crack one open.
I want to try one because you guys make it sound like I'm doing
It's
drugs.
delicious brain juice, John. It's
It
so
is.
so
Oh man.
I mean, it tastes like an energy drink, but at the same time, you'll be flying high.
but it is like it's cleaner than a Red Bull. Like it feels like
Yes.
less trash, even if it's
a
just
little
placebo
less of a
effect.
chemical burn flavor. Yeah.
Yes, it feels like less trash for your body for sure. I'll tell you when I'm going to probably drink one is the day after I get back from this 7-day trip. Is probably when I have to unpack or something.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
say Friday night, Celsius body shots. Let's do it.
Last question, and it's a good one. Are you more excited to see Immaculate or The First Omen?
Ooh.
So
Immaculate all day.
I avoid all of the like stuff, but I saw a headline on like fucking landing page on the internet that was like positive comments about Immaculate, and I was like, huh? Okay.
I mean, honestly, I saw a negative review in the Daily Beast, but their reviews are trash. But I watch anything with Sydney Sweeney in it. I don't want to make it weird, but I
We
would.
know. We're aware.
She's very talented, John.
Yeah. No. What? Sure. I don't. No comment.
And
No
I don't
further
want to watch a
comment.
sequel to fucking anything. Sequel, prequel. I don't fucking want any of that in 2024. So
I don't know. I'm here
that's
for
also a
it.
big part of it for
I'm
me.
kind of into The First Omen too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those trailers. It's a really creative trailer
It is. Yeah.
that tells me
I mean,
nothing about the movie itself.
I like that though. That's like the best to be. I don't want the movie
No,
spoiled by
I
the trailer,
know.
and I want a vibe. I want to know
That
what
is
I'm getting
true.
into.
However,
If they deliver what they're putting
However,
forward,
I have been
totally
burned
agree.
too many times to equate a creatively put together trailer with a good movie.
True.
On the flip
Fair.
side, I have now seen the Godzilla versus Kong trailer 7 times.
That movie looks like butt.
It is. It looks like the worst movie ever
It looks like
made.
fucking butt.
It's
And all I can think every
unbelievable.
time I watch that trailer is like, what happened? Rebecca Hall was in that Night House movie, which was incredible.
Well, she's in the other.
No, I know she is, but like, I hope she's
amazing.
getting paid for.
They're
those
just
movies.
lucky that Madam Web exists this year because
Yeah.
So it's not
gonna
the
really
biggest,
save
yeah.
their bacon.
I literally cannot wait. We have to see it because I just need to hear you talk about the logistics of the double sky.
So
Whatever
Eric,
the
I
hell that
actually
shit
know
is.
like a lot more now because I've watched all of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters,
Tell me.
and they explain the hell out of it. Like they're not giving up on this like world within the world nonsense.
Tell me how
No.
there's lens flares underground, John. Let me know.
It's not actually in the Earth, is the thing. You're going into like a wormhole, and it's actually like an alternate universe.
Which is why I got so angry when they were staring at each other through the hole.
Yeah, that makes that worse.
Well, and it,
Thank you.
in the movie, and they don't do this in the show, but in the movie, remember it is like convex or concave, whatever. It's like they can look up and see the other part of the land, like it curves around. That doesn't happen in the show. In the show, it's just like, oh, now we're in the other realm, and
Yeah.
yes, we went
Around
underground,
the
but we
ocean.
didn't. We went.
So in that show, they spend time in that other place.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Sweet.
The other thing that happens there is time doesn't move. It's like you move. It's like one day equals like 6 years. Or
I mean, listen, I will say this, like, Godzilla -1 is a fantastic film, and I think, like, many people have said this. Those kind of the Japanese ones are where you go to see something truly interesting done with Godzilla, where because they've done it so many times, they're just trying to iterate and make it human and interesting. The American ones are where you go for like big dumb explosions, and I'm not above that. Like that's
No.
King of the Monsters was
We
like
know you're not.
a lot of fun. But like the human part of King of the Monsters was dog shit. Like it was so bad. But like Mecha Godzilla, like but they're in Boston tearing shit up. Like that was fun.
More
So
than anything for
I
me,
can get into that part.
I'm pretty eye rolly over this trailer too, and I'm a pretty big Godzilla fanboy. I shot Colleen down her trip when it came on the trailer came on the TV, and I'm like, that looks dumb, and she's like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? But it feels like they've turned it into Transformers movies.
well, yeah, they 100% have. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like very much on the corner of the Rise of the Planet of the Apes because like that it seems like is the plot of this new one. But I don't know.
I think
We'll
part of
reserve
what
judgment until we see it.
here's my part of my issue with it. I don't care about the ape stuff. I like King Kong, he's cool, but I want to go in the monsters version where it's all the like Ghidorah and like all that shit, Mothra. Like
You have a Mothra
That-
shirt now, so
I do.
We gotta,
but that's the fun stuff for me. Like, was it King of Monsters? Was the name of that
Yeah.
American one?
Yeah.
Like the bunch of apes. I don't fucking give a shit. Come on.
That was the
Godzilla is clearly the coolest part of this upcoming film. Like
Apes with robot hands.
even in that standalone King Kong movie on Skull Island, like there's a bunch of other cool monsters, right? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well King Kong just works by himself. I feel like
There
like
is
there was a giant
a
squid
menagerie
and,
of
yeah.
monsters. Yeah.
there were some
Yeah.
great actors in that movie. I mean, that was a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
So- Oh,
It's Casey's bedtime, apparently.
Sorry.
It's definitely mine. All right, so our guess maybe we're gonna try to do what is it? Love
Lies Bleeding.
Love Lies Bleeding
Can't wait to
this
hear what you
week.
guys think of that one.
I think I can swing the theater this week. I can make that happen. And then so the week after that, I'm gonna be out of town, so we'll take that week off, I guess. But we definitely have some stuff to catch up on. There's been a couple
I
theatrical
mean,
releases.
if we wanted to try to rip something off while we're in Cincy, we could do that. I mean, not even like a review. We could just do like a quick.
A live show. Or a
Yeah.
live-
hitter.
Yeah, let me think
moment.
about the logistics of that. But yeah,
Okay. All right, I got Love Lies penciled in, and yeah, so it gets a little crazy. We are in the theater for like 5 weeks straight after that, between Immaculate, Ghostbusters, Godzilla Kong, First Omen,
That's a
Civil
pretty
War,
that's a pretty fun run, dude. I'm into it.
well, and then Abigail, which you guys are excited about. I am less excited.
We know. With
It's
the week
gonna
you
be
were out,
fun.
the week
Dan
you were out, we talked
Stevens.
extensively about how much of a killjoy you were being on that one. Talked a lot of shit about you that week. John.
Get me another movie that has a girl dancing in it.
All right, Rachel, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me all across the Zombie Girls Podcast Network on Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, all that jazz at ZG Podcasts. Or if you want to follow me personally, I'm at Reachy Pants on all the things.
Love it. While we're here, should we just do more business? Do you want to just join us next week for Love Lies Bleeding?
Sure. Yeah.
Book
I'll
it.
hop on.
All right.
I'm happy to talk about Kristen Stewart in
Same.
various states of undress.
Hey, we have that in common.
I was
right.
gonna say I saw Kristen Stewart's all the hubbub about her outfit at the premiere for that, and I was like, "Oh, hello."
Yeah.
Do I
She's
need
giving
to- should
she's
I-
giving bi wife energy. I think
Should I
is safe to
Google
say.
that?
Yeah.
Should
Yes.
I Google that image?
Yes,
No?
I think you should.
Yes, you should. And then get ready to fall in love with Katie O'Brien.
Well, I can't wait. All right, guys. That's gonna do it. See you next week. Later.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.